Hello, my friends of preparedness. Thank you for being here today. Today will be more of a situation report type video, like a couple videos ago. This one should be rather short. I think I could rant. It's more likely than not that I'll rant a little bit here, so it could be a little bit longer, but it feels like it should be a shorter video. But I don't want to waste much of your time, so I'm going to get right into it without any wasted time. I don't know. Okay, we'll get right into it. I'm going to pull up my overlay. So right here, we have an article again from Reuters. And as many of you probably know, been a little bit of news about Biden and oil. Made a little bit of an announcement today, and that's going to be right here. So the title of this article is U.S. Energy Department issues notice of sale of oil from emergency reserve. So, April 1st, the U.S. Energy Department issued a notice of sale of crude from the emergency reserve on Friday, a day after Joe Biden announced the largest release ever in an effort to push down fuel prices that have soared during Russia's war with Ukraine. About 1 million barrels of oil will be sold from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for 6 months, starting in May. Biden said the oil will serve as a bridge until domestic producers can boost production, help bring oil supply back into balance with demand. That doesn't add up. Oil, domestic. All right, dude. We'll get back to that a little later. We'll circle back to that statement. Last month, Biden banned U.S. imports from Russia, which produced about 10% of the world's oil, which produces, excuse me. The first 90 millions of Strategic Petroleum Reserve oil will be released between May and July, including 20 million barrels that had already been scheduled to get to market in May through previous releases. The other 90 million barrels will be released between August and October, the Energy Department said. The reserve, which currently contains about 568.3 million barrels, or the lowest since May 2002, is held in 4 sites in coastal Texas and Louisiana. Up to 38.5 million barrels will be sold through July from 2 Texas sites, and up to 31.5 million barrels will be sold from 2 Louisiana sites, the department said. Okay, so that is the article. It's a very short article, and I feel like we can extract more from this situation than just what the article presents. So if you just wanted the article, that's it. Thanks for watching. But if you want to actually get into the more preparedness side of this, the discussion side of it, the interesting part of it, you can stay now. Oh, don't leave. Help my watch time, please. So first, I think it's important to state what is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Well, it was established in 1975, and it is a way to offset disruptions in our supply chain of oil. Notably, this is crude oil. This is not refined petroleum. This is dirty petroleum that has to be refined at petrochemical facilities before we can use it in things like cars. So it's not directly utilizable. It has to go to refineries first. But it is crude oil, like we import from these nations. Now, its capacity is 714 million barrels, roughly. Our daily consumption as American citizens, measured in 2019, was the most accurate and up-to-date numbers I could find that weren't influenced by a ton of COVID stuff. Between 20 to 21 million barrels per day is what Americans, all of the United States, consumes. Now, if we take a full capacity 714 million barrel reserve, and we take a daily consumption rate of 20 to 21 million barrels, at full capacity, this reserve will give us roughly 1 month of supply of oil. But it's also not quite as simple as that, because we can only extract a maximum of 4 million barrels from this reserve per day. And if we consume 20 to 21 million, that's only about a fifth of our oil needs. So if things totally went bad, this is a true hitting the fan sort of situation, like we say in the preparedness community, it wouldn't be able to do everything. We'd get some essential functions back, but we would not be able to offset everything. But it is a strategic reserve, and it is critical for preparedness because we do import, especially again in this past year or two, oil from other nations. Now, I'm going to go over here. Take a look at this. This is our oil. This is the oil reserve capacity, or I shouldn't say capacity. It is the amount that is currently in the strategic reserve, or has been historically over time. And this is the U.S. Energy Information Administration that this data is from. Now, if we go over here to the most recent information, it comes from January 2022, so a little bit outdated. It's actually even a little bit lower than what these numbers reflect. In January, we had 588 million barrels. And I know it says thousands there, and the reason that that's a little weird is because this is reflected in thousands of barrels. So you just have to account for that in the decimal place. So this is 588 million barrels. Now we went back over here. What did this article say? It said 568.3 million barrels right now. So we've already gone down quite a bit from January. But if we remember that article, it said that we're actually taking 180 million barrels total, because we're taking 1 million barrels a day for 180 days. That is 180 million barrels that we are extracting from this reserve. The peak of this reserve, it says, was about 726 million barrels. That's max capacity. We've been going down since then. So we've been selling it off to alleviate the cost of it, to make some money, to offset the national debt. They've been selling this crude oil from the reserve, but it's taking a massive speed up. And what happens if we take 588 million and then we take 180 million away from it? Well, that leaves us with roughly, because we actually knew it was under that 588, that's under 400,000, or excuse me, 400 million barrels of oil. When was the last time we were that low? Well, we dipped down pretty low in the early 2000s. And then after Hurricane Katrina and after 9/11, the Bush administration called for it to be filled back up, and it was. But before that, we go all the way back. Not yet. A little bit more. Oh, May 1984. Between March 1984 and May, I'm jumping a little bit, May 1984, we made that jump from 400,000. That means we have not been below that number since 1984. We are less prepared now than we were in 1984, or we will be if this all continues through the end of the year. And in my opinion, my questionably humble opinion, this is one of the stupidest things I've seen happen. And that's saying a lot. The entire purpose of this reserve is to offset disruptions in supply of crude oil. That means if somebody cut us out and they stopped importing to us during a time of global conflict, we'd be okay. Now, maybe you're saying, well, there is global conflict right now. There's the whole thing in Eastern Europe. And, actually the Strategic Reserve is operating exactly how it's supposed to be, because there's conflict and the supply is going down, demand's going up, or staying the same, if nothing else. So we can tap into this Strategic Reserve to make up for that, to ease the price at the pump, to increase the supply here, to give us what we need. Okay, I can see that point, except for the fact that we did it to ourselves. We were the ones that stopped importing from Russia, because for some reason, if it comes from a caliphate, it's better than if it comes from a different corrupt system. Because apparently, caliphates in the Middle East have never done what Russia's done. They've never been that twisted. Saddam Hussein didn't exist, wasn't real, according to them. And here domestically, the Reuters article talked about Biden saying he was looking for domestic producers to ramp up production. His administration was the one that has implemented extreme amount of regulation that the previous administration had taken away to make it easier to give us the supply here domestically that we needed to be energy independent, so we didn't have to rely on other nations. If we were still independent energetically, in oil. We wouldn't have to tap into this reserve, and we'd still have it for preparedness purposes. We would still have this reserve. It'd be supplemental because we'd already be producing everything that we needed, but we'd still have this in the tank in case something happened domestically that we couldn't control. But now on two fronts, we've done this to ourselves. We've had to tap into this reserve, or chosen to. The administration has chosen to. We didn't have to. Because the decisions that it made. This is a political move. This is not a necessity. This just did not need to happen. But midterms are coming up. Approval ratings are in the gutter. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to tap into that strategic reserve that we have to offset emergencies, disasters, and catastrophes, and we're going to use it to boost our numbers at the poll. This is extremely disrespectful to anything having to do with preparedness, to national security. It's irresponsible. Sort of like we talked about the critical infrastructure sectors a couple videos ago. Everything ties into this. This is a level with petrochemical, transportation, national security even. And we're tapping into this for political reasons. So whenever you hear anything about how this is good because it's alleviating pressure at the pump, it's making things cheaper, you're saving 20, 30 cents a gallon because we're tapping into the strategic reserves and we're taking our supply, everything that's in those storages, we're taking it down to about half. It might even get below half by the end. If this continues, it will get below half. This is pretty insane what's happening. And I don't see a whole lot of people talking about it. Mainstream media doesn't seem to care. They seem to think it's a good thing. We have all this oil, let's tap into it. Guys, we're taking oil and we're in our strategic reserve and we are not replacing it. We are using it because it's a little painful right now. But the entire purpose of this is to support us when things are more than just a little bit more painful. But because things are a little bit more painful right now, this has been affecting the current administration, their approval ratings. So they're tapping into this. They're making all of you, all of us, significantly more vulnerable internationally, domestically, because their policies have not been working. Because everything they do has been the wrong decision. But they want you to think it's okay. They want you to think that, well, prices, they're not going up as bad as they could be. I guess the president loves me because he's making it 20, 30 cents cheaper a gallon for me. He's saving my life. No. This makes us all more vulnerable. Makes it a more dangerous world for all of us, and not even just here. And when I say here, I mean in America. Because if we still had the policies we used to have just years ago now, we could even be a net exporter of oil. You know, with the whole Keystone Pipeline thing, yeah, that's not an importation line. You know, it's for exports. And people use that as some sort of proof or argument that it wouldn't really make a difference. Well, if you really cared to not import oil from corrupt, violent places, don't argue for that being shut down, because we would have been producing enough, and we would have been producing enough to export it and to supplement imports from places like Russia, because it's still going on in Europe. They're dependent on Russia. They can't just totally cut off the line. So even though they want you to think that it's some sort of moral virtue to not import oil from Russia right now, and I think it'd be better to be energy independent and not have to rely on Russia, but just know that every decision that they've been making has been making all of us less safe, making a more dangerous world for everybody. That's about all there really is to it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. This was definitely more of a rant video than I expected. And I said at the beginning, this might turn into a rant. So I warned you, but hey, say la vie. It is what it is. Thank you for watching. If you could drop a like and maybe a subscribe. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and tell me why you didn't like it. Comments are still good for the channel. But anyway, that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great evening, afternoon, or morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Just have a good one. I'll see you guys later.